My name is Naomi Russell, 36, architect, partner, mother of two. By the time I pulled into my parents' driveway that afternoon, the sky over Seattle had already decided it would rain and change its mind a dozen times before nightfall. The porch light was on, even though it was barely 4. That's how you knew my mother was expecting company. She liked things to look warm from the street, even if they rarely felt that way inside. Through the kitchen window, I saw her silhouette, apron on, hair pinned, movements brisk and decisive. The table inside was long, the kind my father had built from reclaimed maple back when money was tighter and effort still counted for something. Now it was set for 7. Sophia's family and my parents. My 2 kids, Liam and Emma, had paper plates on the breakfast counter by the window. It was supposed to be Grandkids Day, a celebration of the little ones who keep our hearts young, as Mom wrote in the group chat. Stephen caught my glance as he parked beside me. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said automatically. I'd been saying that word so long it had stopped meaning anything. He smiled faintly, the kind that said he didn't believe me but wouldn't push. We'd been through this before. Family days, small slights, the kind that leave bruises no one can see. Inside, the smell of roast chicken and honeyed carrots filled the air. Mom met us at the door with that bright, rehearsed cheerfulness. "Naomi, you made it. Oh, and Stephen, bless your heart, still so handsome." She hugged him first. Sophia's laugh floated in from the dining room. "You're late, Nye," she said, using that nickname she'd once coined in high school, the one that made me sound smaller. She looked perfect, of course. Silk blouse, new gold hoops, her husband Dan at her side. Their kids sat at the long table, linen napkins, sparkling water poured into real glasses. My 2 were perched on stools at the counter, knees pressed together, whispering to each other between bites. I went still. "Why aren't they sitting with the others?" "Oh," Mom said quickly, "just less mess this way, honey. You know how the younger ones get with gravy." Liam was 8. He hadn't spilled anything in years. Emma's chin trembled slightly as she stabbed a carrot. I caught Stephen's hand brushing mine under the table, a silent, "Don't start now." Dinner went as expected. Sophia's stories dominated. Her new brand deal, her trip to Palm Springs, the way her youngest just adored her new Montessori program. Mom and Dad leaned in, asking questions, laughing in that indulgent way reserved for favorites. When Dad turned to me, it was perfunctory. "And how's work, Naomi?" "Still designing." "Building," I corrected softly. "We just finished the Sutter project downtown." "Oh," he said, nodding absently, eyes already drifting back to Sophia. "That must be nice." The roast chicken was excellent, of course. Mom's food always was. But every bite felt like a test. How long could I sit there pretending not to notice the imbalance, pretending it didn't hurt? I caught Emma looking at the big table again, her fork idle. "Mommy, can I sit there?" she whispered. Before I could answer, Mom said gently, "Sweetheart, that's the grown-up table. Maybe when you're older." I felt it then, the tiny, clean crack inside me. It wasn't rage. Rage is loud. This was quiet, mathematical, a shift in weight that you only notice once the beam gives way. After dinner, while Sophia posed with the kids for another photo, "Hold the pie higher, Mom. Perfect." I started clearing the plates. Stephen joined me, sleeves rolled up, hands steady. He leaned in. "Same as last year." "Worse," I murmured. "At least last year they gave the kids chairs." Behind us, Mom's voice rang out, syrupy and sweet. "Naomi, leave that, dear. You know Sophia's got the camera out. Come be in the picture." I hesitated, a plate still in my hand. She was smiling, but her tone wasn't a request. It was instruction. I dried my hands and joined the group. Sophia wrapped an arm around me, the smell of her perfume sharp and expensive. Click. "Perfect," she said, checking the screen. "Gosh, Nye, you look tired. Work keeping you that busy?" The words landed like a paper cut, thin, precise, almost nothing, until it stings. Stephen's arm slid around my waist, subtle protection. I gave a practiced smile. "Yeah," I said. "Work's been full." The night wore on. Presents were exchanged, mostly from me. New art kits for her kids, books, a sweater for Dad. Sophia handed me a single candle wrapped in tissue paper. "Hand poured," she said proudly. "You like those minimal things." I nodded. "It's lovely." It wasn't, but I'd learned long ago that honesty was currency wasted here. As the rain began outside, Mom started packing leftovers. "I'll send some home with Sophia," she said. "Her kids eat better than anyone." I froze mid-motion. What about Liam and Emma? Oh, honey, she said, they're used to leftovers. It was almost kind the way she said it, like a fact, like gravity. Stephen looked at me then, not shocked, not even angry, just aware. The kind of awareness that said he'd seen this happen too many times to still be surprised. On the drive home, the car was quiet except for the rhythmic thump of wipers. Emma fell asleep in her seat, clutching a half-eaten cookie. Liam stared out the window, his reflection faint in the glass. Stephen's hand rested on my thigh. You want to talk about it? I shook my head. Not tonight. He nodded once. You sure? Yeah, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't anything. Just full. Not from food, but from everything I hadn't said. By the time we got home, the apartment was dark. The city hummed outside, soft and distant. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the bills tacked to the fridge, the spreadsheet open on my laptop. Mortgage transfer, utility help, Sophia's car payment, all labeled temporary. I scrolled to the bottom and stared at the total. Then, without really thinking, I whispered it out loud. Enough. It wasn't rage, it was geometry. The exact moment when the line I'd been drawing for everyone else finally met its end. It started, as most traps do, with a good intention. 14 months ago, my father had called on a Sunday morning. I still remember the sound of the rain on the window, the smell of Stephen's coffee brewing in the kitchen. Just a little tight this month, Nye, he'd said, his tone casual, almost embarrassed. You know how property taxes sneak up. We'll pay you back once we clear the balance. I'd hesitated only a second before agreeing. Family helps family. That was the rule we grew up with. I transferred $1,800 that night. The next month it was $1,500, then $900. Then the words temporary help started to appear in my budget sheets, always with new reasons. By now the folder on my desktop was labeled Family Support, Ongoing. Inside were 15 entries, each neatly itemized. Mortgage top-ups, Sophia's car loan, Mom's dental work, Dad's new lawnmower, we'll split it later, and even a $400 emergency for Sophia's daughter's birthday party, the one with the rented pony. Stephen never complained, not once, but the way he exhaled when I opened my laptop at night said more than words could. That Tuesday, 3 days after the dinner, I sat at the kitchen counter long after he'd gone to bed. The glow from the screen cast a harsh light on the numbers. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the distant rush of traffic down by Lake City Way. A message pinged, Mom. Sweetheart, thank you again for covering last month. Your father's stress levels are finally down. You're such a blessing. I stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen. Blessing. That word again. It used to mean something holy. Now it felt like a label you stick on someone so you can keep taking. I didn't reply. The next tab showed our household budget, mine and Stephen's. Rent, utilities, groceries, the kids' school fees. We weren't drowning, but there was no room left to breathe. My line items for savings and vacation were zeroed out. Stephen appeared behind me, hair messy, eyes soft with sleep. It's 1 a.m, he murmured. Come to bed. In a bit, I said. He leaned against this counter, arms crossed. You're not running a company, Naomi. You're running a rescue mission. That stung. It's just until they get back on their feet. He didn't argue. He never did. That was his grace and his curse. Instead, he came closer and brushed a strand of hair from my face. When do we get to build for us? I wanted to answer, but all I could do was stare at the spreadsheet. The numbers looked clean, rational, but each one carried the weight of someone else's need. After he went back to bed, I opened a new note and started typing. Not a message, just thoughts I didn't know where else to put. I think I've been confusing love with debt. Every time I pay, I buy silence. Every time I give, I'm told I'm good. But I'm tired of being good. I deleted it after rereading. Some truths were too raw to save. The following weekend, Sophia called. Her voice was bright, like nothing awkward had ever existed between us. Hey, Nye! So, quick thing. My designer canceled last minute, and I know you're good with layouts. Could you mock up a floor plan for my pop-up event? I can't pay much, but it'll be exposure. Exposure, my favorite currency. I'll think about it, I said, keeping my tone even. Great, you're the best. Mom said you might also cover the kids' camp deposit this month, right? You're amazing. I hung up before she could finish. My pulse was steady, too steady. Something inside me was going numb, like a limb that's been asleep too long. That night, as I folded laundry, Emma patted in with her stuffed rabbit. Mommy, why do we never go anywhere fun like Aunt Sophia's kids? I stopped folding. What do you mean? They went on a plane, and they have that big pool. Grandma said you like saving money, so we don't do that stuff. Stephen, from the doorway, froze. His eyes met mine, not angry, just tired. I knelt and held her. It's not about money, sweetheart. It's about timing. But even as I said it, I felt the lie twist in my chest. It was about money, about choices I kept making for everyone else. Later, when the kids were asleep, I stood at the window, watching the city lights flicker over the wet street. I remembered being 23, telling myself I'd build a life that looked like independence. Clean lines, solid foundations, everything symmetrical. But somehow, I'd built something else entirely, a structure where everyone leaned on me until I couldn't stand straight. The next morning, I did something small but irreversible. I moved the family support folder to the trash. I didn't delete it yet, just moved it. A symbolic shift, maybe, but a real one. At breakfast, Stephen noticed the quiet in me. You're thinking again, he said gently. Yeah. About what? Geometry, I said, load-bearing walls. He smiled faintly. That's your way of saying you're about to make a big decision. I looked at him then, the only person who'd never asked for more than I could give. I said slowly, I'm done being the foundation for everyone else's house. He reached across the table and took my hand. Then let it crack, Naomi. The world won't end. And maybe for the first time, I believed him. The group chat started it. Mom's message came in on a Thursday evening. Cheerful and efficient. Family meeting this Sunday. Dad and I have an idea for the grandkids' future. Nothing serious, just planning ahead. I showed the text to Stephen. He just raised an eyebrow. Should I bring popcorn? By Sunday afternoon, we were back in the same house, same driveway, same illusion of warmth. Rain again. Seattle's favorite mood. Inside, Mom had printed color-coded spreadsheets. That alone should have been a warning. The words Grandkids Fund Proposal sat neatly at the top, underlined. She beamed as we gathered around the table. Yes, the same table where my kids still weren't allowed to eat. So, she began, your father and I thought it'd be smart to start a savings plan for the little ones. College, travel, the future. That part made sense. But then she slid 2 papers toward me and Sophia. We've worked out contributions, it'll be fair. Stephen leaned closer as I read. My name sat beside a number. $700 per month. Sophia's, $100. I blinked. Is this a typo? Mom smiled, too quickly. No, honey. We just thought since your income's steadier, you could take the lead for now. Sophia's business is still finding its rhythm. Sophia laughed softly, like it was all adorable. You're the rock, Nye. You've always been the responsible one. I stared at the neat columns. Black ink, clean math, built entirely on assumption. The sound in my ears turned hollow, like pressure underwater. Stephen's voice broke through. You realize that's $700 every month? Mom nodded, still cheerful. Yes, but it's for the kids. All the kids. Dad added, you can just roll it in with the mortgage help. Keep things simple. There it was. The casual stacking of burdens, spoken like a grocery list. I set the paper down carefully. I'm not doing that. The room went still. Even the clock seemed to hesitate. Sophia tilted her head. What do you mean not doing it? I mean, I'm not paying for this, and I'm not covering the mortgage anymore. Mom's smile faltered. Sweetheart, don't be dramatic. We've depended on you. I know, I cut in, calm but firm, and that's the problem. Dad frowned. We said we'd pay you back. You've been saying that for over a year. Sophia gave a sharp little laugh, the kind that hides discomfort behind humor. Wow, someone woke up on the wrong side of the spreadsheet. Stephen's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent, letting me speak. His version of support. I turned to her. You know what's funny? You keep talking about how I'm the rock, but rocks crack under weight. You just don't hear it because it happens slowly. Mom tried to redirect. Naomi, please, this isn't how family talks to each other. I met her eyes. No, this is exactly how family should talk, honestly. Her lips pressed together. After everything we've done for you. I laughed then, softly, because it was either that or scream. You mean after everything I've done for you? Dad stood abruptly. Don't you take that tone with your mother. Stephen stepped forward, voice even. With respect, sir, maybe it's time someone listened to her. The words hung there, thick with history. Mom's eyes flicked toward him. Surprise, maybe even betrayal. Stephen, we've always treated you like family. He nodded once. Yes, which is why I'm saying this now. Family doesn't get to pick one person to carry everyone else. Sophia scoffed. Oh, please, you're not the one who has to keep a business running. I turned to her, voice quiet. No, I'm the one who kept your car running when you couldn't make payments. Remember that? Color drained from her face. You said you wanted to help. I did. I thought helping was temporary. Turns out I was just being used. Dad slammed his palm against the table. Enough! The plates rattled. Emma flinched. Liam stared wide-eyed. I took a slow breath. You're right. Enough. Then I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and scrolled to the automatic transfers. I pressed cancel on each one. Mortgage, allowance, car payment. Click, click, click. Mom's voice cracked. Naomi, what are you doing? Drawing a line. You're walking out on family. No, I said softly. I'm walking away from being your floor. Silence. Only the sound of rain against the window, like applause from a distant crowd. I gathered Liam and Emma's jackets. Stephen followed quietly. As we stepped onto the porch, Sophia's voice chased after me, brittle and cold. You'll regret this, Nye. Mom and Dad won't forget it. I turned back just long enough to meet her eyes. Good. Maybe then they'll finally remember who kept them standing. The door closed behind us. Outside, the air smelled of wet cedar and freedom. Sharp, alive. Stephen slipped his hand into mine. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. The sound of the rain filled the spaces words used to occupy. It didn't feel like losing. It felt like breathing for the first time in years. The first text came at 8:13 a.m., sharp as a knife through the quiet of our apartment. Mom. Naomi, please reconsider. We're just shocked. Come over to talk. I read it aloud to Stephen. He sipped his coffee, unbothered. I'm going to ignore it, he said calmly. You already drew the line. I nodded, but ignoring wasn't enough. My phone buzzed again. Then again. By noon, 19 missed calls. By evening, 47. Guilt campaigns, thinly disguised as concern. Mom called first, voice small and fragile. We can meet with the bank, maybe a forbearance. We just didn't expect. I let her trail off. Mom, I'm not going to finance your comfort anymore. I'm done being your floor. Dad's call was next. We don't understand why you're doing this. You're leaving us exposed. You're done. Dad, I'm done being everyone's safety net. Sophia's message arrived late that night. Selfish, ungrateful. Hope you can sleep at night. I stared at it. The sting was familiar, the familiar twist of betrayal. But the numbness had thickened into resolve. I turned off her stories for 30 days. That was like taking out the trash. A sudden, satisfying click as the lid closed. Practical things became my lifeline. I went to the garage, collected my boxes of tools, my old chalk line, levels, the little clamps I'd used building Sophia's shelves. Dad had said, if you won't help, you can't store your stuff here. I didn't argue. I filled my hatchback. I drove home, back squeaking, rain plastering my hair to my forehead. The next morning, I called the bank to confirm the transfers would end after the current month. I didn't delete them yet. Habits die slowly. I just moved them into a new budget line, ours. I scheduled swimming lessons for Emma, a book fair for Liam, a rare date night with Stephen. Everything small, but ours. The guilt messages continued, though they shifted tone. Mom, the shingles are loose. The house will collapse. I replied simply, I'll come Saturday with my ladder. Sophia, hours later. You have no idea how hard it is to be me. Everyone expects me to juggle. Max needs camp. Ivy needs new shoes. Why is it easy for you to watch us struggle? I stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then typed, It's not easy. It's not my job. I didn't answer her claim of me being cold. I put the phone on airplane mode and slept like someone had turned down a noise I didn't realize had been on for years. The ripple effects were subtle but immediate. Grandma called, persistent. Family is everything. I replied quietly, My kids are family. Aunt texted, We heard you cut your parents off. I replied, I stopped paying their mortgage. They are adults. At work, my project manager noticed a change. Everything okay? First time I've seen you leave on time 2 days in a row. I smiled faintly. I'm building something at home. And I was. Not a house, not a project, but a life built to carry us, not everyone else. Week after week, the aftershocks continued. Sophia's posts mocked me subtly, glittered quotes about withholding love and control. I didn't respond. Mom and Dad tightened belts, sold the boat, canceled cable, cooked at home. Practical lessons, maybe learned too late. At home, the children noticed, but in a small, almost magical way. Emma arranged her peas by color without worry. Liam told stories that spanned the living room, arcs landing exactly where they should. I stopped checking my phone every hour. I said yes to small, joyful things: ice cream stops, extra Minecraft minutes, colored pencils. One Saturday, we visited my parents' house. I'd warned: equal seats, equal plates, or we leave. Inside, no banner, no throne chairs, no name cards, just 6 plates of food. The children sat together, clinking plastic cups, laughing softly. Mom watched, unsure, almost afraid to enjoy it. Sophia didn't come. Dad handed me the mail like nothing had happened. I went up on the roof later, hammer in hand. 3 nails, a dab of tar, clear problems, clear fixes. Returning inside, Mom handed me a small container. Cupcakes. I opened it. No crowns, no special design, just frosting. Thanks, Mom, I said. She touched my arm. You're a good mother, she whispered. I'm trying, I said. The call that began the next day was brief. 32 missed calls in total, then none. Silence settled over our evenings. Peaceful, ordinary hours. We ate at our own table, noticed small things. Emma arranging peas by shade, Liam drawing arcs in his story that landed perfectly. I stopped counting other people's bills at bedtime. I began counting our own little joys. By the end of the week, it felt like a wall had been removed. Not destroyed, just cleared away. The mornings were quieter now. No urgent calls, no guilt-laden texts. Just sunlight spilling across the kitchen table and the soft hum of the city waking up. Liam had taken to telling elaborate stories over breakfast. Emma arranging her crayons by shade, meticulous and content. I listened, really listened, for the first time in over a year. Stephen poured coffee for both of us, watching me with that steady calm that had always been my anchor. You did it, he said. I just stopped letting it carry me, I replied. The truth was sharper than I expected. Reclaiming boundaries doesn't feel like victory. It feels like waking up from a fog. Each number canceled, each transfer stopped, each polite refusal was a small liberation. The weight of 14 months' worth of temporary help was gone, and I could finally bend my attention where it belonged, on the lives that mattered most. Sophia tried subtle maneuvers at first. A story on Instagram, Max's scholarship announcement captioned in glitter. When people withhold love to control you. I didn't respond. No likes, no comments, no energy wasted. Mom and Dad adapted more quietly. They listed the boat for sale, fixed leaks themselves, canceled cable. At first I thought it was resentment, but slowly it became acceptance. They were learning, painfully, practically, that my generosity had limits. At home, we built small rituals to replace the chaos. Saturday mornings became pancake mornings, messy and indulgent. Emma's swimming lessons and Liam's book fair became milestones we celebrated. Even a $1.50 donut or 10 extra minutes of Minecraft counted. These weren't grand gestures. They were ours. They were choices made without obligation, without fear. One Saturday, we returned to my parents' house. Equal plates, equal seats, no banners, no glitter crowns, just food and laughter. Mom hovered in the background, unsure, almost afraid to enjoy it. Sophia didn't come. Dad handed me the mail without comment, a quiet acknowledgement of what had changed. I went up on the roof afterward, hammer and tar in hand. 3 nails, a dab of tar, small problems, small solutions. Returning inside, Mom handed me a container of cupcakes. No crowns, no special frosting, just frosting. Thanks, Mom, I said. She touched my arm lightly. You're a good mother, she whispered. I'm trying, I said, the words full, real, and unburdened. The aftershocks faded. Silence replaced guilt. Peace replaced obligation. I opened my spreadsheet one last time, renamed it Past Support. A new one sat next to it. Ours. Line by line, date by date, expense by expense, we began building something for ourselves. Emma's swim lessons, Liam's book fair, date nights, small joys, all meticulously cataloged, all carefully protected. The hardest lessons are the ones you have to teach yourself. I taught myself that generosity without respect is not love. I taught myself that stability for others, when it costs your children, is cruelty disguised as duty. I taught myself that boundaries are not betrayal. They are self-preservation, the scaffold on which a real life is built. Stephen squeezed my hand one night, watching the kids sleep. "Feels different," he murmured. "Yes," I said softly. "Not bigger, not richer, just finally ours." The house smelled faintly of fresh paint again, like old memories being remade. Not in the grand gestures, but in quiet habits, doors closed properly, shelves sturdy, dinners on time, laughter that didn't hide anxiety. I realized then that love doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a chair, a plate, a life built with intention and care. I realized that sometimes saying no is the truest form of saying yes, to the people who deserve it most. And in that quiet, ordinary life, I finally felt free.